CBS 46 News presents Public Affairs on Peach.
Good morning and welcome to Public Affairs on Peach. I'm Karen Greer. Today's show is a tough subject, but we need to talk about it. It's stalking. With today's technology, it's easier for people to find you whether you want them to or not. And my first guest is Margie Gill. Her daughter actually had a stalker as a young age, a complete stranger, no one she knew. Margie, how old was your daughter when this stalker actually approached her? Thank you for joining us first.
Thank you for having me. When it first started, my daughter was 12, turning 13.
Wow. So she was about to go into high school. And how did she figure out somebody was stalking her?
Well, it was at her softball games. She was attending a softball game with one of our neighbor's daughter. She was there to watch her play because she had a game next. And luckily for us, our neighbor was attentive to this one person in particular that was just watching our daughter.
Talk about some more of the behavior that she noticed.
She noticed that every time my daughter would go from one part of the park to another, he would be right there, like in her proximity. But we're really good friends, so she knew she did not know this person because I would have introduced her to this person before I left the park. And you know, when I returned, she said, "It's something fishy about that guy." And then my daughter noticed that when she played like first base, he would be on the first base fence. When she'd switch to third base, he'd be on the third base fence. When she'd be in outfield, he'd try to go to the furthest part of the fence. And he would, you know, like yell like, hey, hey, you know, to her, things like that. And she as a 13-year-old, she said it was, you know, it was really creepy. She went to the restroom. When she walked out, he was right there in her face. And that's when, you know, enough is enough.
About how old was he?
He was in his mid-20s. So it wasn't like someone who was her age. It wasn't someone we knew. We didn't know him. We had never seen him before.
And then what happened after she was face-to-face with him?
After she was face-to-face with him, he had a smirk on his face. She started receiving Facebook messages. We monitored all of her social media, and she would ask, "Who is this?" And he wouldn't answer. He would send messages like, "I'm in love with the person in this picture, and I watch you." And he admitted that he watches her. And he said he was going to kidnap her, take her to Nigeria, all sorts of things.
It actually took a turn for the worse because he appeared in a store where she was.
Yes. We were in TJ Maxx. And when my husband and I, when we entered, we saw he had on a name badge, so we knew he worked there. And immediately we went to store management to ask, who is that person? Because when we made eye contact, he left out of the store so quickly. He literally sprinted to his car. And the manager gave us his name, but by the time we could get close enough to the vehicle to get a tag number, he had already driven off.
Did he leave work, never came back?
Never came back. When we returned to the store, like a few weeks later, management said jokingly, "What did you all do to," and they called his name. We were like, "Nothing." And they told us he never came back to work.
Wow.
And the other part was his check was undeliverable. He never came back. He didn't have a direct deposit. They tried to mail his check, and the check was sent back, or it was something that gave the indicators that he gave a false address.
That's frightening.
Very frightening.
Now,
very frightening.
How's your daughter today?
Oh, she's doing very well. She's thriving. She does attend school. She's very aware. She tries to increase awareness in other college students, you know, with their surroundings, and not to be overly friendly to people, because, you know, college students can be a little naive. That's their first time leaving home, but she says she feels as though she's a bit mothering to even her peers.
Because, the college campus where she was, they had some issues of rapes on campus, some situations. She's very aware of her surroundings to this day.
Very aware of her surroundings.
And you actually have taken this upon yourselves now to help other women out there dealing with domestic violence issues and other things.
Yes, we assist women with domestic violence issues, survivors of human trafficking. My husband and I, we run a nonprofit, Tabitha's House, that provides services to women who have been victimized, women and children victimized through trafficking.
So you just turned this whole thing around and said, this is a problem.
Yes.
Folks need to know what to do.
Of course, because, you know, we were active with our daughter, but there are children who don't have that active participation with their parents, and their parents don't, you know, advocate for them. So we took that stance, and we do it on a daily basis for children, boys, girls, adult women who don't have a voice.
And you have done a great job with it. We thank you.
Thank you.
And really thank you for sharing your story with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Get more information out on your organization on our website later on after the show.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. That was just an example of when a stranger is stalking someone. When Public Affairs on Peach resumes, a woman who knew a lot about her stalker because she used to be married to him. Don't go anywhere. Public Affairs on Peach. Back in 2 minutes.